Tom, the Republican
I
candidate
did
for
not
governor.
have sexual relations with
I
that
realize
woman.
that this is something
Miss
he
Lewinsky.
is
We're not going to
inherent.
be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
Hey, good morning, Cleveland. Welcome to another edition of Backfire with John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey, and of course myself, Steve Bowbally, and our chief engineer, Daniel Brantley. Good to have everybody back today. Hey, we've been talking about the Russians for over a year now. What do you want to talk about this morning?
Well, I would have to say that it was a difficult week for the Trump administration.
How so? Yeah.
Well, the president's son-in-law lost his security clearance yesterday.
Oh, that was a big deal.
A lot of us aren't bothered by that.
How many other people? Let me ask you something. That's a good point. How long does it take to get a security clearance?
Well, in this administration, it's taken twice as long as anybody else, but, you know, they're the ones responsible for doing it. It's not somebody else.
Wonder what's taking so long?
Said the FBI had given them the information they needed about the end of last summer.
Well, who
So
stamped this
what's-
thing?
Well, I mean, General Kelly probably is in charge of it, but that's the reason he lost it yesterday is because General Kelly has changed some of the guidelines.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's got to be.
The president would have to give Jared Kushner a waiver of the rules that have applied to everybody else.
Well, I mean, I think President Trump's going to do what's right. He always does.
Always.
Yeah. I mean, well, tell me what. I didn't mean to interrupt you. What else is a bad week for President Trump?
Well, we found out that this person who's revolted by the sight of blood and whose heel spur and some foot that he can't remember kept him from going to the military would have rushed into an elementary school unarmed to save those children.
Well, no, he said
Anybody
that.
find that?
No, he said that.
No, that's exactly what he said he would have done.
That's right. So
Yeah.
what's wrong with that?
Let's just say I'm skeptical given his history.
Well, no, wait a minute. Why are you skeptical? How do you know he wouldn't have done it?
We'll never know.
Well, would you have been skeptical of the deputy that was down there with his history? No,
Would I
you
been
wouldn't have been
skeptical?
skeptical of
Oh,
him,
I don't
but
believe-
in fact, he did cowardly not enter the school.
I'm not defending the deputy.
No, but
at
my
all.
point is, Franklin, you know, for you to say that is just a chance to take a pot shot at the president.
Yeah,
Now, personally,
yeah.
I probably wouldn't have given all you liberals a chance to take a pot shot at me, so I probably wouldn't have said that. But I think he said it from the heart. You know, Franklin, people, you all are so set on destroying the country if you have to in order to destroy this guy because you can't admit that you nominated a toad who lost the easiest winnable election probably in the last 100 years.
Yes, that would explain why the number of conservative Republicans who spent so much time criticizing the president this past week.
Well,
Would that be the president who invited booze for a POW dying of brain cancer this week? That's such a good man.
What was he?
I didn't see, Franklin. I didn't say anything about him being a good man. I said you all are set on destroying anything you can in order to not have to deal with the fact that you all put up a toad and she lost.
No,
big time.
I don't care who's the president right now, John. What I care about is what's happening in the country.
Well,
and this is absurd.
Is this not good, what's happening in the country? Except, you know, we had the kids get shot. Do you think the president had anything to do with
Actually,
it?
they have blamed him for that. Barbara Streisand says it's his fault.
Well, anyway, take that shooting out of it this week. What's he done?
I didn't mention the
Well,
shooting.
what's he done wrong?
I didn't mention
Well,
the
I
shooting.
mean, we act like he's done something. The country's really doing really well. He's accomplished 65% of his goals already in 1 year.
65%.
That's what they're saying.
Who says that?
Well, it was all over the news yesterday that you don't watch.
Yeah. What did I watch? I watched a revolt at the CPAC event this time as Steve Bannon's prediction came true. that the Republican Party is now at war with itself. I don't know why you'd
Really?
be cheering that. Yeah.
And do you want to talk about the fact that a incumbent congressman in Illinois is not going to be endorsed by the Democrat Party because he happens to be pro-life? Or the fact that Dianne Feinstein is not going to be endorsed by the California Republican Party because she's not liberal enough for your socialists?
Happily, because we've always had those divisions.
No,
in our party.
Franklin, she's as liberal as they come, and she's not enough for you all anymore. You all aren't Democrats, you're
Who is
socialists.
you all, John?
The Democratic Party.
You mean the Democratic Party in California?
No, Tom Perez,
What's the
the
difference?
Illinois congressman, is
Dianne
not going to be...
Feinstein was in California last time I checked.
That was the California Republican
Okay.
Party wasn't going to endorse it. But guess what? The full National Party is not going to endorse
Okay.
an incumbent Democrat congressman in Illinois because he's pro-life.
But we
because
have
there's
these
no
debates,
room
and
for
we have
pro-life.
these problems.
No, you don't have a debate. You don't have
John,
a debate if
this
there's
past
no room
week,
for a pro-life
The
congressman.
CPAC group declined to extend
CPAC is an interest group. CPAC is a conservative interest
They
group.
declined to allow Eric Erickson to come speak because he wasn't conservative enough.
That's CPAC. What does CPAC stand for?
Conservative political action.
Conservative.
Yeah.
That's what they stand for.
Yep. That's right.
They're not the National Party.
Wait a minute, John. Let's not interrupt Franklin. He was telling us how bad Trump was this week.
He
All
had
right,
a
keep
terrible
going.
week.
All right, tell me what else he had wrong with him this week. What? I mean, you said he had a bad week. What was wrong?
Poll ratings tanked again.
I think they're up higher than they've ever been.
No, they're not. They're back down.
You
John?
see CNN's poll?
Yeah,
because
that-
there's a 15-point discrepancy between Rasmussen
I just heard the
and
polls.
CNN.
I heard the
No,
polls
the
this
polling
morning.
average,
I heard
which
the
is
polls.
what I use
I heard
for.
the polls last night. I think they're at 52% for Trump.
Yeah.
Last week he was a higher approval rating than Obama had at the same point in his presidency.
In the one poll that every poll that's been taken for a year and a half, they've been 10 points higher than everybody else.
Let me play something for you. I want y'all to hear. Put on your headsets. This would crack me up. I laughed about this one. Go ahead.
Former President Barack Obama denied that his administration had any scandals that embarrassed him or his team.
Actually, I will defend him on that. That is true. Because he wasn't embarrassed by the fact that the IRS targeted conservatives. He wasn't embarrassed by the fact that they let felons have guns and take them across the border into Mexico.
And
he
you
wasn't embarrassed by
apparently are
any
not
of that.
embarrassed by the fact that now that you run the Justice Department and there are nobody but Republicans looking into this, there's not a single criminal charge that comes out of it. Why? Because there was never a crime there, and it was a political hocus pocus.
Which one are you talking about?
IRS, all these phony scandals you come up with.
The IRS. Oh my gosh, Franklin.
You're in charge of the Justice Department. If there was a crime there, they could investigate and prosecute it. Why aren't they doing
Franklin,
it, John?
I didn't necessarily say there was a crime, but let me give you an example. There may not have been a crime, but Lois Lerner should have been fired. She shouldn't have been allowed to retire to her multi-million-dollar home on the river.
There's going to be a new investigation come out.
Of?
He's Pfizer. How do you pronounce it?
Please do.
Pfizer.
We now know that all 4 judges who signed off on these warrants were Republicans. Every one of them.
I don't care, Franklin.
We now
You're the partisan.
know that
A
this
lie's a
memo
lie.
you put out was just chock full of lies.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we do.
The Democrat response did nothing. It actually bolstered it because it didn't refute anything.
It refuted almost
No,
all
it didn't
of it,
refute
John.
any of it, Franklin.
We found out now.
Do we know whether they were notified that this was paid for by the Democratic Committee?
It says it was notified.
We're
It was
fixing-
paid for by a political opponent.
We're fixing
is what
to
it
find
said.
out. We're fixing-
Political opponent.
Do we
John.
know that the court was told that? Do we know
That's
that?
what it says.
Is that
A political opponent.
Hey, Franklin. I'm gonna
Look,
give-
Franklin.
Wait a minute. What's the definition of it?
Franklin, I know that we're supposed to argue on this show, but if you're that
not really.
comfortable with the mechanics of government being brought to bear on one or the other side of a political election, I fear for the future of the country.
You mean when Barack Obama purposefully didn't come out and tell the American public what was going on?
Well, Franklin,
And that favored Donald Trump? You think that there was that the
Well, first
mechanics
off-
of government were
First
being
off,
brought to
Franklin,
bear for one side?
Let me explain this to you. That's because the reason Barack Obama did that is because you all had blinders on to the fact that you had nominated a toad who was going to lose. You all assumed you were going to win, and that's why he didn't come out and say anything. Because it never dawned on you all that you all were so out of touch
Actually,
with the public.
You mean like when Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell came forward and said, no, we won't join into a bipartisan statement telling the country what's going on. You'll just have to do that yourself. When they put party ahead of country, I can't believe you excuse this stuff, John. What has happened to your soul?
I don't know, Franklin. What happened to your president who all of this happened on his watch? Why didn't he do something about the Russians?
First of all, he did take some actions. You can,
Franklin, he told Vladimir Putin, cut it out. That's it. Cut it out.
Close several installations here.
Which made no difference to them whatsoever.
Okay, at least he did something,
No
John.
sanction.
Yesterday,
He didn't
Donald
sanction
Trump's
them.
own guy.
Franklin,
What did Mike Rogers say yesterday, John?
He said we could be doing more.
He said we haven't done anything to punish
No, he didn't
them.
say
Yeah,
we
he
haven't
did.
done. No, he did not say that.
Yes, he
No,
did.
he didn't.
And
Look it
Donald
up.
Trump comes
Look
out
it
and
up.
says,
No, you're not
we
getting
don't
away with
need
that.
to do any
You're not
sanctions
getting away
on
with
them.
that. He did
It
not
might
say
upset
that.
Vladimir, and he might
He
say
did
something
not
embarrassing about
say
it.
what you just
Yeah,
said.
he did.
What did he
No,
say?
he didn't.
What did he say? What
He
did say?
said he can't disclose everything we're doing. We would have to do it in a secret session. But he did say we could do more.
He said our response has not been reciprocal to the level of
Well, guess
actions
what,
they took.
Mr. Lawyer? That's not what you said a minute ago. You said he
Okay,
said
John.
we haven't done anything.
That's John, because you believe people
We
listen
haven't
to us
done
are too
anything
stupid
is
to
a very
understand.
different statement, Franklin. If you want to argue, be direct.
I will
and honest
argue all
about it.
day with it. You're putting party over country day after day after day and refuse to hold this idiot accountable for this ridiculous behavior.
Well, you know what, Franklin? The millions of
You people are
that
now
are
in
benefiting
charge.
in their
Do
pay-
something.
We did. We gave people a tax cut.
Yeah.
We gave
are.
people
Yeah.
39 states are now going to have
You
lower
gave
energy
Vladimir
costs.
Putin a pat on the rear end and said, attaboy.
Really, Franklin? You mean when we killed his soldiers in Syria last week?
Yes,
When we
John.
literally
Yes,
killed
John.
Russians.
Yes,
So
John.
killing Russians isn't a big deal
Yes,
to you.
John, because we've been backing
We
those folks up
killed
too.
Russians.
And you
That's
know it.
about as big an insult to a leader as you could do.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? We're going to literally
He
kill
sounds
some
really
of your
woke
soldiers.
up about it.
Well, now, what else has Trump done bad this week?
How many? We've only been going 15 minutes and we've covered 5 things so far. Give me a minute to think of what else he screwed
Now,
up.
wait a minute. I'm just trying to figure out. I still
What
haven't
is it,
got
a
the
screw
one.
up?
What about? Give me one screw
Let's
up.
go with
I haven't
let's
heard
go with
one
the
yet.
mini ones. How about Ben Carson's $31,000 dining table in his office yesterday?
Look,
$31,000.
Franklin, how about
A custom dining table.
the fact that I have said I don't care whether it's Republican or Democrat, government's too big. And the bigger you make government, the more of those things you get.
But let's talk about Trump again. What's he done wrong? You say he's had a bad week. I still hadn't found anything you said that was bad. What have you said that was bad about Trump? He's had a bad week. That's what you said this
I
morning.
just said that he led a group of people in booing a POW who is dying of cancer. Who does that?
I don't even know what you're talking
I
about.
don't either.
Oh, you didn't watch his speech at CPAC, apparently.
I was working, like most Republicans.
There you go. Okay.
Anyway, he said, what was it? I didn't hear that.
He
I
crit-
haven't seen it anywhere on the
He
news.
criticized John McCain, who's home dying, and led the group in a bunch of booing of him
Of what?
I
because he
should-
disagrees with his policies.
Well, you know what,
Okay,
Franklin,
disagree with him.
John
But who
McCain
does that?
John McCain is still a United States senator. I guess that we can't say anything about disagreeing with a policy of his while he's dying.
I
I
disagree.
mean, nobody said anything about
That's what you
disagreeing with
just
him.
said.
No, he didn't. Lead a
I
cheer
disagree.
in booing
He
him.
didn't boo him.
I
He
boo
can't
him right
control
now.
the crowd.
I'm going to boo him right now. He should have never voted to keep Obamacare when he did.
And that has nothing to do with not feeling sorry for he and his family
sorry for him.
as
It's
he
called
goes through
class.
this. You mean like the way
Humanity.
you all have paraded the victims of the shooting in Florida around to
I
push
think
your
they're
gun
doing, I think
control
they're doing pretty well
argument?
on their own, John.
Yeah, they are when they're given hour after hour of airtime. What about the students who disagree with them? Because there are students who disagree. They haven't been given
Fox
any
won't let them
airtime.
on TV?
NBC and CBS and CNN
Has
won't.
Fox had them on?
A couple of times.
Okay.
Because we've tried to
sure-
be that.
I'm-
But we've had both of them on, Franklin. But not CNN hasn't. They've paraded them around, and they've used them to push their gun control measures. Let me ask you a question, Franklin.
This is all a top-down
Let me ask
issue,
you a
John.
question, Franklin. If I get a auditorium full of people who have had family members die of cancer, is that a sympathetic group that we can certainly listen to about the ravages of cancer?
Presumably, John.
Does it mean that they're able to cure cancer? Should we then tell those people, you are now the experts on how to cure cancer? Or should we?
Who said they're the experts, John?
The press. They have taken these kids who are a sympathetic group, admittedly, and nobody on the gun rights side wants to be seen as criticizing them, but they have used
I
them.
have not seen
they
any
have
problem
used,
with that,
because you all have been horrible on this issue.
Oh, no, I
as
have
you
seen
always are.
I have seen zealots on the other side
What about-
go right after
What
these
was the
kids.
CNN deal where they were bashing?
Well, first off, before the cameras even rolled, they let the sheriff, who ought to be fired, probably ought to be in jail, they let him get up and whip the crowd into a frenzy before Dana Lash or Marco Rubio set
And
foot on the
and
stage.
who is it, John, who took that sheriff down in an interview this week? Who was it who did that?
On the Sunday show?
It was Jake Tapper
Yeah,
who showed his incompetence.
But Franklin.
CNN.
haven't
Oh,
you
my
been-
God. Imagine
One
that.
guy on CNN who's halfway decent. Tapper is halfway decent. But Tapper's also the one that when things that were factually untrue were being said on stage at the CNN event, didn't stop it. Didn't stop the booing of Marco Rubio. Didn't say a word when a kid told Marco Rubio that he was in fact a murderer. Now the kid's sympathetic. No, and like I said, nobody wants to be seen as not being nice to those kids. But when a kid gets up there and says a United States senator is a murderer because he hadn't passed a specific legislation that a 16 or 17-year-old thinks ought to be passed,
And when he looked at
And
him,
you think people watching
looked
this
like he
are
was
too
looking down the
stupid to
barrel
make
of
those judgments for
well,
themselves?
I don't know,
John?
Franklin. If
Is
you
that
want
what
to
you
go,
think?
if you want to go through it, an MSNBC host, I take that back. CNN host held up a pump-action shotgun and said it was an AR-15. Didn't even know what the gun was. MSNBC yesterday, one of their top people said that handguns were ineffective against rifle shooters because the bullets didn't move fast enough. I hate to break it to you, Franklin. A .357 will shoot through an engine block.
Thanks.
And by the way, the shooter, the Bernie Sanders shooter with the AK-47 who attacked Steve Scalise and Republican congressman was taken down by officers with handguns.
what about the police that didn't go in when they were there?
Well, what about the sheriff who lied about it? We
Well-
now know he lied about that.
I think he's a terrible sheriff. There's no doubt in the way he.
Well, actually, some of this may actually be purposeful.
What?
All right. So there's
His deputy didn't go in purposefully?
every now and then
They
there
get
are
paid- they get
conspiracy
paid.
theories that actually end up being somewhat true. So there's a conspiracy theory out there that there was a cooperation between the local school board and the sheriff's office to reduce and not arrest these people. Well,
Not arrest.
the Sun Sentinel down there, several of the felonies that would have actually blocked him from buying the gun. And it sounds like a conspiracy theory. And so several journalists said, okay, we're going to debunk that. Well, now it turns out that there's actual data from the sheriff's election campaigns and from his office that shows that they, in fact, weren't arresting people for felonies that they could have been arrested for because they wanted to have lower numbers in the schools. It reflects poorly on the school if you have felony arrests. So over
He was an adult, John.
Franklin, he was there for years before. The point is, there were multiple times that he could have been arrested. And what the sheriff's office apparently has been ordered to do is to not arrest in the schools. And the data actually reflects they did that actively. So the very things that could have gone into the NCIS system that would have triggered a block for him to buy the gun weren't entered for political reasons.
Why would 4 policemen be outside and listen to shooting going off inside and not go in?
Well, the
I just want
EMS,
to understand
the
that.
EMS has now said they were ordered not to go in. And the standard since Columbine was that EMS and the police both went in immediately. So there's now EMS personnel that are saying they were giving they asked to enter, and the police department told them they weren't allowed to enter.
Well, this is a lovely discussion about what people did after this event.
I'm
was
just trying to
already
figure out
underway.
why 4 policemen wouldn't go
Well,
in.
Franklin, there's estimates that 6 of these kids wouldn't have been killed if they'd
I'm not
gone in.
I'm not
No,
defending them.
I want to get back to my question. Why do you think one of them they sounded like he was a coward, but the other 3, why would they not have gone in unless maybe they were ordered not to go in?
I don't know the answer. If they were ordered not to, that's going to be available in radio traffic somewhere. So we'll know the answer to that if that's the
All right,
case.
so what I was talking about the statistics,
Yeah.
the Sheriff Israel instructed his deputies to issue juvenile civil citations, not arrests. Their own written policy encouraged handling even criminal activity, quote, outside the criminal justice
Are
system.
we talking about juveniles here, or are we talking about adults, John?
We're talking about felonies, Franklin.
No, there is a difference, John. Even if it's a felony, when you're a juvenile, it's charged
It
differently.
still
So I'm
goes-
asking
the point is
question.
it goes
I
on
don't
the
know the
record.
answer. I'm asking for information.
All right. The statistics show that all the criminal activity remained steady through the entire time that he's been sheriff. But the arrests in the juvenile division decreased by 15%, 20%, 25% each year. So what it means is they weren't arresting juveniles that would have gone on their record and been there to have blocked the sale, or to allowed court action, or to have allowed mental health action. So his policy, which was a political policy to get his numbers down for re-election and for the school board's wish, actually affected our ability to find these people and stop them from buying guns.
Well, I'm all for enhanced background checks.
Maria Schneider, the head of the juvenile unit in Broward State Attorney's Office, said, "We've accomplished reducing the arrests. Now it's, quote, how do we keep that up without making the schools a more dangerous place?" So they actively quit arresting students, Franklin. That's the point.
Well, they quit arresting them for what?
Anything. They didn't want
Not
the
any
arrest.
arrest would affect this.
They
John.
didn't want the arrest, Franklin. He issued an order, even for criminal activity, give them a citation, don't arrest them.
Okay,
When you
but
don't arrest them, it doesn't go in the system. You know that.
They get arrested now for in the place
I
of a
don't know
paddling,
that.
don't they? Do they
Because
Not
citation.
down there, that's the point. They actively said we're not going to arrest anyone, even for criminal activity.
Well, I know I was talking to some of my school teacher friends, and they said now the teachers can't paddle anyone. You can't punish anyone, so you call the resource officer, and they come and arrest them.
Well, they don't down there.
Okay, first of all, a citation doesn't mean a ticket in that circumstance. It means instead of putting cuffs on you and putting you in a car, that you're told when to show up in court. You're still being charged with a crime. If you're then convicted of that crime, I'm pretty sure the outcome still is the same.
You're not being charged with it, Franklin. The policies told the officers, do not arrest, even for
Arrest and
felonies.
charge is different. That's
Their
what I'm trying to
policy
explain.
actually said for felonies and serious threats to school safety, they were not to arrest.
Okay.
Do not arrest. That was his written policy.
That's not the same thing as charging somebody, though.
If you don't arrest them, they're not charged. Am I not right about that?
No, you're not right. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. All of our deputies here have this right, too. They do it all the time.
What?
For crimes that aren't committed in their presence, they will give citations frequently, telling them to come to court.
Cruz was never expelled or arrested for his behavior because they didn't want the
What
mark
was
on
his
their
behavior?
record.
I
He
haven't heard.
threatened other students. He threatened to kill people, Franklin.
Okay, I'm not defending him or them. I'm just asking for clarification.
All right, we're
Because
getting a
you're
call.
saying things that
We're
aren't the
getting a call.
same.
Let's take a call here. Help us out, caller.
Has anybody ever said, I've never heard, how did the shooter get into the school?
That's a
Thank
good
you. I'll wait
question.
for your comment.
That's a good question. Thanks.
Well, I don't understand that either because you're supposed to have a choke point, and they've never told us that. And the glass, he did try to shoot people outside. He saw them walking out, and he tried to shoot. The glass was hardened, and he wasn't able to shoot out through it. Of course, that kind of goes against the deputy's story that he didn't know where the shooter was. If you're shooting at the glass, probably pretty good indication there's a shooter inside. Mm-hmm. There's an estimate that 6 or 7 of these kids wouldn't have died if that deputy had gone in. By the way, let's read.
Well, there's more than one deputy that didn't go in. There's one there, but
we know of the one, but the Coral Springs Police Department say there were 3 others.
I heard the other 3 showed up, didn't even have guns.
Well, the problem with this, if you show up in your car, I know the guys here, they've got a handgun on them, they've got an assault rifle in the car, and a lot of them used to at least have shotguns in the car as well. Plus, they wear level 3A body armor, and they have plate carriers, most of them. Mm-hmm. Plate carrier will stop a rifle round.
You ask a question that none of us know the answer to.
Why he got in there?
No.
How did he get in there?
No, why the deputy didn't go in. I mean, I'm not defending him and saying
Trump
that.
would have.
So he says.
Well, Franklin, if I was being honest and I was talking like Trump was talking, and I think that's part of what you all have such a hard time with. Right. He's just sort of I'm right up here, I'm going to say what's on my mind. I would have said that I hope, at least, that I would have gone in, too.
And I would have been perfectly happy with that small degree of humility.
What's wrong with Trump giving it?
He didn't do that.
Oh, he did.
He actually did qualify, Franklin. He said, no one knows until they're tested. He said that. Did you miss that part?
And I think he said, I think everyone here, and he pointed to everybody he was speaking to, would have gone in also.
Okay.
Anyway, we're not going to resolve this today, and
I want to read though. I've actually got the transcript of the phone call that came in to the FBI. It's really shocking to read what this person told the FBI that they didn't react to. I'll find it.
Oh, and I completely agree with that.
How many times let me go into the legal side of it. I think 40-something times the police have been called on this kid. Is that right? Is that
I don't know the answer to that.
Well,
I've not heard that number, but I don't know.
Well, Fox is reporting 40 times, I believe, that the police were notified about problems with this kid or visited his home, even, for issues.
Here's the transcript. And by the way, this is probably a leaker inside the FBI because the FBI won't comment on it.
Right.
And they did not release this transcript.
Right.
And now keep in mind, this is the second call because they'd already been notified that he had posted that he was going to kill people. Mm-hmm. So this is the second call. This is the woman's voice. On the Instagram, he says, I want to kill people. Let me see. Yes, I want to kill people, and I want to give you the Instagram accounts, and you can look at them, and you'll see the pictures. So she gave him the Instagram accounts and the pictures. Then she said, and now it's cutting up animals and things like that, little animals. She talks about him bringing a bird in and said, and he started cutting the bird up. And Mother Linda said, what are you doing? And he says, I want to see what's inside. Now, I don't know. And then she laughed. That, to me, would be a red flag. She told him that he dresses up as ISIS terrorists. She then told him some more, and finally at the end she said, I just want to, get it off my chest in case something does happen, and I do believe something's going to happen. That's the actual transcript of what she told the FBI. She gave them the Instagram accounts, told them the names to find it, the pictures, that he was going to do it. He'd said he was going to do it, that he was torturing animals and cutting them up. And they didn't even pass this down the chain. So one of the problems, Franklin, in this whole thing from you all's side of the coin is you all are saying we want to disarm the citizens.
No, nobody said that.
The Democrats just introduced a bill that would ban all semi-automatic weapons, every one. That's my deer rifle. That's my shotgun. That's almost probably 95% of the concealed carry guns in the country.
That has nothing to do with the discussion about a background check.
I'm just telling you.
Nothing.
No, the Cornyn bill, Republican John Cornyn has been on the books for about 3 years now trying to get it through, and the gun control people are the ones against it. But let me finish what I'm saying. in essence, you all say you don't need those guns. You certainly don't need all of those guns. You need to let the government take care of you. And yet the very example that you all are using to bring all of this up and have this conversation is a gigantic cluster with the government failing at every single step to protect the citizens. How do you make that logical fallacy
I didn't
right?
make any logical fallacy. In fact, what I said last week when we had this discussion was you're never going to have a 100% foolproof system. But that doesn't mean it can't be better. And if that system saves one mass shooting, then we've accomplished
Then that means you support letting teachers carry guns. If it saves one child, you'll support it, right? You just said that.
John. Theoretically.
Okay, good. There's progress.
But I will point out, John, that I think that the idea that that's some kind of panacea for this problem, I think, is just silly.
Well, there's 100 districts in the state of Texas that are doing it already.
There was a pretty good study. They showed that. They looked at the police department in New York City. And
you can't compare New York or California to anything else in this country.
And what you... Well, I think by all accounts, people would say that they have a very good police department there.
Okay, go
They
ahead.
have to deal with a lot more than most places do. But what they found is, in cases where police officers actually had to fire their weapons, they hit somebody 18% of the
I
time.
knew this is where you were going.
No, but it's
Is
perfect.
that not a case against police officers being armed as well, then?
No, it's a statement that when people are under the stress of a dangerous event, adrenaline takes over and accuracy falls. You're not going to have police teachers that have been as well trained as police
All right, let me
officers
ask you a
are.
question, Franklin.
And so presumably there's a lot higher risk there than you
All right,
might
let me
have.
ask you a question. You're right. When you talk
that's
about
all I
this,
would say.
when
But
you
that's-
talk about
but
this
that's the
accuracy,
discussion
I
that should
understand. I
happen.
understand. But do you think that a teacher with a gun pointed, even with the adrenaline and maybe some shaking, has a better chance of hitting them with the gun or with their finger going bang bang? Which one has?
or hiding under a
Which
desk.
one of those
question-
two
the
actually
question-
has some chance of stopping?
The question is, if you're going to miss 4 out of 5 times, is there a risk of that teacher hitting?
I don't know, Franklin.
right.
If you don't hit him, he's going to shoot the other people anyway.
Let's take a quick call here. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead, caller.
I know that we've... Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Can you hear us,
I
caller?
know that we've talked about arming the teachers and putting more guards and so forth and so on. But has anybody considered the fact of possibly putting levels of discipline before it gets to that point?
Absolutely, you're right.
The students of today have completely forgotten what discipline and repercussion, and I'll hang up just a second, and
You think we ought to put paddlings back in?
to that.
You think we ought to put paddlings back in, caller?
We ought to put paddlings. We ought to have, if you get sent home from school, when I got home, there was an issue if I was to ever get sent home from school.
Yeah.
If I was,
Today you're liable to be sued if you send a kid home from school.
well, then that's the problem with the society itself.
You're absolutely right.
We've got a no discipline, and we've got a too much discipline. Either we're going to shoot the kid for doing something, but we don't catch it in the middle.
How do you feel, caller? How do you feel about teachers being armed? Are you there?
As long as they're trained and qualified, yeah. I can totally see it. But again, I still think that's too late. If a teacher has to shoot a student, we had a lot of opportunity between a paddling and a shooting.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually one of the problems with the debate here. When the immediate response on the left is to say we need an assault weapons ban, you don't get to have the kind of conversations that this caller's talking about. And he's absolutely right. This is the conversation we ought to be having. Where you can't have it.
You don't ban a gun. A gun doesn't shoot any more than a fork makes somebody fat.
Well, on top of that, these 3D printers, you can literally print an AR-15 on a 3D printer now. You think you're going to stop anybody from getting one?
Caller, thanks for calling.
That's actually, I was going to bring this up. Yesterday, there were students who had protests all over the country. They turned violent. They attacked cars, broke windows out of police cars, and attacked the police, took a baton away from a policeman. He had to be helped by a bystander until reinforcements. But now, wait a minute. You know what the superintendent did at this one where they turned violent? He praised the protesters. Franklin, you and I went to Bradley High School. If we had tried to walk out in protest, what would have happened to us?
Well, we would have received punishment.
We would have been suspended.
Miss Clemmer still there?
We would have, no. I'm not, we're not that old. You're older than us. We would have been punished. This is the problem. These kids grow up with a sense of entitlement, and that they want what they want, when they want, the way they want, and if they don't get it, they're mad. Now, some of them, most of them, do stuff like this. They break some windows out. They spray paint some graffiti. But a few of them go get their daddy's gun and kill people. It's the same thought process. We have no discipline. We have no control. And I will say this. There are studies after study after study that show these mass shootings, almost all of them are from broken homes with no father figure in the home. Now, people immediately start reacting to that. I'm not saying that there's any, I don't know what conclusion to draw from that. But it is a fact. They're all from broken homes. They all had no father figure in their life. And that matter of fact, there's a study, I've got it here, elephant herds. When the water tables get high, the male elephants, the older elephants, are gone from the herds. The young male elephants become much meaner and much more aggressive, and their testosterone levels spike.
All right, we got another call. Go ahead, caller.
When the government got involved in people telling them that they can't whip their kids, that was a big mistake, and I knew that was a big mistake because when I was at home, we had 6 of us, and we got in trouble in school. Oh, I had a dad that we was feared of our dad. We wasn't scared, but we feared it because we know if we got in trouble, and he was a big old guy anyway, but we knew if we got in trouble, my dad took that belt by God and he whipped us.
Well, what about the teacher?
Uh,
Did you get whipped at school?
Oh, yeah, I got a paddle with a hose drilled in the wood.
They used to display their paddles to us and to try to scare us.
I remember one time I got hit by the principal there in the office, and, baby, that thing stung. Woo, Lordy.
All right. Thanks for calling, caller.
But see, even...
I certainly appreciate the debate about school discipline and family discipline and so forth, but it sort of just skips over the fact that for the last 20 years, the crime rate in our country has been falling dramatically.
And the gun ownership's been increasing rapidly.
Well, the mass shooting rate, however, has gone up.
Yes, and guess what all of them happened in? They all happened after the gun-free zone bill was passed. Every one of the mass shootings in this country have happened except for one after we passed the gun-free zone bill that didn't allow them in schools.
Contrary to what we said before, there was a significant increase in these mass shootings after the assault weapons ban expired.
But 3 of them happened while the assault weapons ban was in place. So what did it do? And matter of fact,
as I have said, you're never going to solve every single case. The question.
So just give up a little bit of your liberty.
Well, you give up your liberty every day. John.
Right. You're right.
And you allow your liberty to be
You're
regulated
absolutely
every
right.
day. And there's never been a decision by the United States Supreme Court or anybody else who says you can't regulate
Well,
these
I'm
rights
glad
anymore.
that you're now on the side of giving up people's liberty.
Let's talk right there.
You're gonna drop your whole complaint against them seizing assets on the interstate, right?
No, I'm not.
Oh, so they can seize
because
guns, but not
everything is
assets.
a matter of degree.
Oh,
John.
right. So if it doesn't affect you, you don't mind someone
Hold
losing
on.
their
As they say,
Hold your thoughts. We've got a lot of other things to talk about, but first we've got to take a break. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, I'm Shelley Duvall.
And you're listening to WOOPLP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Need to do your taxes? Using your tax refund for your next vehicle? Buy Here, Pay Here USA has tax pros on site to prepare your taxes and provide you with a free tax refund estimate. Use your refund estimate as down payment on one of our vehicles, and we'll pay for your tax prep, up to $250. Why wait for your money? Our tax refund special makes it easy for you to sign and drive. Visit any of our 4 locations or buyherepayhereusa.com for details. You're going to want our sticker on your car.
Why would you put up with a heating and cooling system that cycles on and off when you can have quiet, true comfort, variable speed by Train? It runs at low speeds with continuous little adjustments to keep your home comfortable and quiet. It's always been hard to stop a train. Now, it's hard to hear one.
When you want an unconventionally efficient heating and air unit that keeps your home right in the comfort zone, day in and day out, nothing will do but a Train. To get the best Train service, call your local Train comfort specialist. Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. Keeping you comfortable is Mechanical Systems' only business, and they've been providing high-quality service and installation for more than 30 years. Mechanical Systems, 336-5739. That's 336-5739.
It's hard to stop a train.
No dealers allowed.
Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933, offering the best with over 70 styles of recliners, sofas, electronic lift chairs, full living room packages. Call Mike now at 961-7239 because Jackson Catnapper now offers sales to the public
Every Saturday. That's right. Every Saturday.
From 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. Or call Mike at 961-7239. Or go see him
every Saturday
at 1911 King Edward Avenue, just across from the main plant. Jackson Catnapper, family owned and operated in Cleveland since 1933. 961-7239.
No dealers allowed.
Hello, my name is Andy Figglestaller with Ed Jacobs & Associates. We are an employee benefit and insurance broker in business for the past 20 years. The new healthcare law, also known as Obamacare, has finally arrived. The law is complex and the choices are confusing. You have questions, we have the answers. It is our passion to find cost-effective solutions for every client. The solutions will be different for every person or business. Let our knowledge, experience, and passion go to work for you. Contact us today and let us assist you through this process. Our phone number is 423-473-0202, or you can find us on the web at edjacobs.com.
Rent to own. Hey, my Clevelanders, it's Fro. If you need to fill up some rooms in your home, but you don't have a lot of dough, go see my friends at Economy Rentals for a washer and dryer set for only $19.95 a week, or 2 rooms of furniture for your living room and bedroom for only $39.95 a week. Hey, 35 years in business, Economy Rentals is Cleveland's oldest family-owned rent-to-own store. Free delivery and setup. Economy Rentals. Rent-to-own? Make it easy to own. Inventory reduction sale. Hey, mention you heard it on Whoop and get 10% off all bedding. Economy Rentals. That's 901 Sahara Drive or call 472-6105. Visit them on the web at economyrentals.net. 901 Sahara Drive or 472-6105. Attention, Cleveland area creditors. Are you tired of dealing with debtors that owe you money? I'm Jeff Renfro, and I've owned and operated Financial Recovery, a debt recovery specialist here in my hometown of Cleveland for 18 years. We're a licensed and bonded Tennessee collection agency working for a wide variety of creditors from commercial, manufacturing, physicians, dentists, attorneys, small business owners to individuals. Look, any kind of business dealing with billing, charge accounts, or even return checks. I know your past due accounts are not a top priority for you, but they would be to me. Let me try to make it easy for you to make a change in the way you've been handling your accounts. There's no contract and no cost to you in most cases, as our fee of only 30% can be added to the balance owed to you. So, whether you have hundreds of accounts monthly and need help with your billing and collection, or you're just an individual and somebody owes you money, let me help you. Give me a call at 400-5376 and I'll come by and see you. That's 400-5376.
Financial Recovery, a licensed and bonded collection agency in Cleveland, Tennessee. 400-5376.
If you need a little green, Lending Frog is making deals. He'll lend you cash on any kind of wheels. Borrow just a little, or you can borrow big. Lending Frog is a new financial gig. It's hip to hop into cash. LendingFrog.com is making a splash. Dig it, dig it.
That's it. So what you're banning is the technology of a pistol grip.
It hasn't stopped since we've been on break, by the way, but we're back.
I've got here's at least 9 episodes where good people defended themselves with an AR-15, and if you read over these 9 episodes, what you'll find is there's a common denominator among them. It's one good guy with 3 or 4 or 5 bad guys. And so the AR-15 is a equalizer in situations like that. One of them's a 15-year-old boy defending he and his 12-year-old sister with his father's AR-15 against 3 armed intruders. So are there bad things that people do with these guns? Sure. But there are plenty of good things that people do with these guns, too. Do you remember the Korean shop owners who had to get up on the roof of their building during the riots in L.A. to defend against mobs of people trying to burn their store and home to the ground?
Wait a minute. Where were the police during all that?
Gone. You know, the police that we're supposed to disarm, and the police weren't gone, but they were probably overwhelmed. They weren't there. And they can't always be there. In Colorado, one of the districts that just authorized teachers to be armed said they're a small rural district. It's 20 minutes to the nearest, they don't have a police department in their little town. It's 20 minutes for the nearest police to respond to it. Most of these active shooter things are over in 5 minutes.
Just a quick question. Trump did a study. Trump that had a bad week. He met with governors.
He met with victims.
He met with whom else? I forget. Parents. He met with a lot of people.
He's done more on this issue than Obama ever did.
Well, I understand. I mean, he really cares. I really think.
By the way, the bump stock thing that he said he's going to do on his own, which the ATF can do that if they want to, that is reversing a rule that was decided by the Obama administration.
But anyway, he's really done, I think, I was proud of him for doing what he's done so far, meeting with the people and trying to get to the bottom of what the best way to handle this situation is. Because it has become a political thing, and we don't need it to be a political thing. We need it to be the safety of the children.
Well,
let's talk about the safety of the children.
And we can't accomplish that without making it a political thing.
Well,
because we never had these discussions otherwise.
Do you think Trump was doing the right thing by meeting with all these people, trying to get a peace?
Today?
Yes, I do.
All right, so good. That's something he did good this week, isn't it?
If he follows through with some action.
Well, I mean,
that's the question.
The first thing you talked about was what a bad week Trump's had. I think he's had a wonderful week. I think he did a good job in handling this situation as bad as it is. It's a terrible situation.
Well, I know what you guys would have said if he left one of these listening sessions and Obama went to the golf course. I know what y'all would have said.
But Obama didn't even have the listening session.
Oh, he had tons of listening
Not
sessions.
like this, Franklin.
With these victims?
No.
Oh, yes, he
he
did.
always had it with the victims.
That's what we're talking about.
No, Trump listened to the victims. Okay. He listened to the governors. He listened to the law enforcement.
Let's come back here and answer this question when we see what he actually does.
Well, he's already broken ranks with the NRA.
No. He said yesterday, there's no disagreement between me and the NRA.
The bump stock's going to happen.
So we'll see.
And they don't really support that. I don't particularly have a problem with the bump stock because, to be honest, it's a piece of trash.
My guess is nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
That's my guess.
I think you're wrong.
All right.
I think something will happen. I think Trump is a good president. I think he cares. I think he wants to get to the bottom of problems in America.
Okay. We'll see.
And I think a lot of the problems have been created by the lack of going through and fulfilling what had been already in place in the past.
Well, let me say something, though, and Franklin's going to probably hit me on this. It gets awful damn hard as a conservative to say over and over what's going to happen, and then after it happens, you still get blamed. Conservatives all along the line in the 70s and the 80s, when the liberal progressives were saying close the mental institutions, we said you're going to dump these people on the street. They're going to be a danger to themselves. They're going to be a danger to society. What did they do? The liberals went right along and did it. We told them it was going to be bad. Most of the people that are chronically homeless have mental health issues. Most of them are abused and suffer on their own, but some of them get a hold of a gun and kill other people. We told you this was
And
going to
that's
happen.
revisionist history.
We told
That
you
is
that
yes.
if you quit discipline in the schools, the kids were going to
You
get
also
unruly.
said
we
we
told
can't
you
afford
all
these
of this
things.
will happen.
You also said we can't afford to make these quality institutions. We can't afford to spend money making them into effective institutions. That's what you also said.
What we said was priorities. For example,
Yeah,
Broward.
exactly.
You're
That's
right.
right.
You're right. Broward County.
That's right.
Broward County last year spent $180,000+ on transgender acceptance policies instead of hardening their damn schools so shooters couldn't get in. That was a bad decision on priorities.
I understood that this particular
All right,
school
let me
had
ask you,
gunproof,
as
bulletproof
wonderful
windows,
as
didn't
you
it?
think all
Didn't
the
it?
transgender
Didn't it?
rules are,
Didn't it,
Franklin,
John?
what was more important?
Didn't it, John?
Well, he got in. Obviously, it wasn't hard enough.
Well, that's a policy change.
What would $189,000 have done?
I don't know, John.
John, let's calm down just
It
a
might have
minute.
saved some of those kids from killing
I want
themselves.
you to calm
Not
down.
that you care.
Calm down,
You
just.
all don't care. You want legalized suicide. What is it? Are you for it or against it?
I'm for helping people when they're in trouble.
Here's
and need
what they
help.
want. If you kill yourself with a gun, it's bad because it used a gun. But if you kill yourself with drugs or get a doctor to do it, it's okay. Now, people like me say you shouldn't kill yourself no matter. I don't care whether you do it with a gun or a doctor. I think suicide's wrong.
Amen.
Okay.
Now then, DACA. Let's talk about DACA. Let's change the subject a minute.
Well, wasn't that amazing that that Hispanic judge who just couldn't possibly be fair to Donald Trump weighed in on his wall this week and said he could go ahead with it?
Huh?
Well, it's because the assaults on it were so ridiculous by your side. Even he had to decide in favor of the Trump.
Even he. What was wrong with him, John?
Nothing. I don't have anything wrong with
Well,
it.
you know, it was your words. Even he.
Well, you're the one
You mean
that
even
made the
this
distinction.
Hispanic? Oh, my God. Because they couldn't possibly be fair. Just like Donald Trump's speech this week where he talked about compared immigrants to all as snakes.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it just like Jennifer Palmieri, the Clinton spokesman, and the former Obama spokesman who posted on Instagram, just got in a cab with a Russian driver. If I disappear, here's the color of the car?
Criticize her.
No, that's the point. She's not being CNN, C-SPAN, none of
Criticize
them.
her.
But they don't, Franklin. They
You
only
do it,
attack
John.
us.
Just to be fair about it.
Oh,
criticize
God,
your side
be
too.
fair. Oh, my gosh,
I'm talking
be
about
fair.
you, John.
You mean the side who says anybody that doesn't support gun bans is blood on their
Nobody
hands?
has proposed a gun ban.
Actually, you all did. You
No,
did
we
yesterday. It's a
we
ban on semi-automatic weapons, which will ban almost all of them.
All right, let me ask
Maybe
this
you need to
question.
talk to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer because that's what they introduced yesterday.
Should we police the social media?
No, unfortunately.
I don't think I think what's going to happen is you're probably going to see some legislation that requires them to weed out phony content from the bots. In other words, not people posting things, but computers doing it, or face some financial penalties. I think that's entirely possible.
But you don't think the police or someone or some system should police the social media?
I don't know what you mean. Do you mean look at social media and try and intercept threats?
Yes.
Well, that's not policing. When you say policing the social media, it makes me think you're talking about
I think the question
censoring.
is, are they going to be held accountable?
I'm not talking about censoring.
Absolutely, and especially when someone calls you up like that woman did and gives you everything on this guy.
I think
That's not what he's
I think
talking
there's
about.
a lot of crime going on the social media. In other words, you've got people trying to brainwash people over the internet, ISIS people, and I think there's a way there that we could stop that. I think that these crazies get on there, just like this boy. He was on the internet posting pictures of
He was
dead
studying,
animals
he was
and
studying
everything
how
else.
to build bombs.
I mean, when you find things like this going on, why can't we react? Why can't the police go over there and do something about a crazy on the internet posting these things? Because most likely they do have a mental problem, and they need to be, the research needs to be done.
But we don't have institutions to put them in anymore because the liberals closed them.
Is Trump trying to do something about that?
Yeah, he actually said maybe we need to bring mental institutions back.
I thought that was a good idea. What do you think, Franklin?
Okay.
Poor old Trump had a bad week, though.
He also proposed dramatic cuts in the funding for that sort of stuff. So which one am I supposed to believe?
Well, I don't know, Franklin. When you show me the tree that all this money grows on, when we're spending money on transgender acceptance instead of hardening our schools to save our kids?
I'm just saying, John, to claim that the real issue is mental health and then take away the resources to do anything about it is a little hypocritical.
We don't take it away, Franklin. We want to move it around. You all won't set priorities. You want to spend money that we don't have on things we don't need. What we're saying is there are things we need. And mental health
like
probably
roads
is
and bridges. We need those.
We do need those, but we don't need transgender acceptance policies. Waste of money.
How about food stamps? Are we wasting any money?
Well, tell me this. If the economy has completely rebounded, why is the number of food stamp recipients not going down?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out myself. I like Trump's idea about the food packages or whatever.
I agree. What he's doing is he's using the WIC program as a model. WIC is considered the most successful policy program for helping people.
What is WIC?
Women's, infant, and children. And before Franklin leaves, Franklin, who created the WIC program?
I don't remember if it started under the Johnson or the Nixon administration.
Actually, Dan Quayle did it. It's a late program. Okay. Dan Quayle, the guy you all said was an idiot, actually created the most successful social program, the best working social program we have.
One last thing before you leave, Frank. Franklin's got to leave this month. The unions paying dues. What happened on that judgment? Anything come down on it this week?
The Supreme Court hasn't released it.
Illinois or something? No. This is government unions, people, an employee.
Public employee union.
Forcing people to pay dues whether they want to join or
right.
not.
And this is going to be a big deal if this, if they can't force these dues to be paid by these people, it's going to be a big deal.
Well, in every state where they've lost this on private unions, union membership plummeted. In Wisconsin, union membership plummeted.
What's your opinion on this, Frank?
So did middle class income.
No, they did.
Yeah, they did.
They did.
So you're for the union?
I'm just telling you, as a matter of
forcing people to pay for something they don't want.
You can match the statistics up year by year by year.
Frank,
as union membership
people have
falls,
a right to decide what they join?
The middle class has shrunk.
All right, fine. Let's force everybody to join the NRA. I think the NRA's I think it benefits everybody.
You can say anything you want, but don't tell me you're worried about the economy.
Are you going to support forcing them to join the NRA?
No, John.
Then don't force them to join anything.
Okay.
I agree. I mean, why should you be forced to join something? What is the union?
Because Franklin and the liberals think you're too stupid to make your own decisions.
Why do we need the union these days? Tell me. I mean, you say because it helps drive the price up. It does drive the price up.
It definitely helps incomes. Sure.
It helps drive the price up.
Okay.
Because I was talking to a union person here a few weeks ago, and said he hadn't been able to get work in several months. And I said, what's wrong? He said, well, we're union. I think they just got the prices too high.
Too high.
Can't compete.
Unions never lower the price.
Yeah.
They never lower the price.
Anyway, I know you got to go, Franklin, so.
Everybody have a great week.
Hey, you too. Thank you for coming. We'll see you next week. What's going to happen with the NRA? Is there going to be
memberships?
I'm talking about, is there going to be any changes to the laws? You think something's going to happen here?
I think they're going to ban the bump stocks. I don't care
about age limits.
The age limit.
Let's talk about some things.
My gut reaction on the age limit first was I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But one of the congressmen came on and he actually made a very good point. He said, "What do you tell the 20-year-old mother of two who's home alone with her kids, who she can buy a rifle or a shotgun now, she can't buy a handgun. You're now going to take away her ability to have a rifle or a shotgun to protect her children."
Well, here's the deal. I thought one state had a pretty good deal. You get a parent's permission for 21 or less to buy a long gun.
I I think you have to look at it and be somewhat pragmatic and say, okay, if we're going to do it, we're going to, for example, they were going to exclude people that had served in the military because they've been trained, A, the military matures you, and B, they've been trained in how to handle firearms. Now, having said that, I don't think it's a bad idea to have 2 years required national service for everybody. I think that might be.
When I was in the military, I was in Germany, and that's the way the Germans.
Well, here's what I'm talking about. 150 years ago, and this argument cuts both ways. You can say 150 years ago, and I said this last week to you. You let your kid go out and play in the woods, you better make sure they know how to defend themselves against the bears and the lions. But that cuts both ways, because I'm saying that a 12, 13, 14-year-old was mature 150 years ago and understood the dangers of the world. The problem now is, hell, a 30-year-old's not mature. We've decided that adolescence goes till you're 28, 29, 30 years old. So that's one of the problems. I think that 2 years of national service would teach, A, a little bit of work ethic, and B, I think it would mature some of these kids a little earlier.
All right, I want to say something. We've got to go. We're past time. But I want to say, I thought Trump did a great job this week, meeting with people, trying to get to the bottom of things. And I think one of the best things I heard him say, John, and this is right up your alley, is there are a lot of teachers in our system that have been in the military, that have been trained, that would love to have the opportunity to help protect these children because they love them. They're teachers and they love them.
Offered a concealed carry class for teachers last week. He set it at 25. It filled. He had to raise it to 200. It filled. He raised it to 300. He had 500 people apply. He had to turn over 200 people away. All teachers who wanted to be trained to carry firearms.
Well, I just don't think, and Trump made some points I thought that was good. He said, you know, I would give a teacher $1,000 bonus if they wanted to do this. I'd give them another $1,000 a year. He said, we can't afford to hire all these new policemen.
I've got a proposal here.
And put them in these schools.
$24,000 solution, and it addresses that. It's actually expensive to buy the gun, buy the ammunition, shoot regularly so you're good. So they actually recommend about a $2,000 a year. Well, $24,000 will put 12 armed teachers in your district.
Right.
To train them.
But he was thinking of the money.
I know.
But what gets me, Trump was thinking of
the issue through.
And one of the things I heard him say that I thought was just brilliant was, you know, he said, we talk about these things that are never going to happen. Well, he said, I want to talk about things that we can get some things done with.
Well, think about what the other side's saying. They're saying that a teacher is trustworthy enough to drop your child off and leave them in their hands all day to manage cuts, abrasions, allergic reactions, but they're not trustworthy enough or capable enough to learn how to handle a gun, if they so choose.
We're so late, we've got to go because I've got a dental appointment this morning somewhere. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson, John Stanberry, and Franklin Chansey.